Now, as far as the media goes in their coverage of both conventions, it's pretty clear that there's a bias. I think we all know there's a media bias at this point. But it was very apparent from the coverage of these conventions. And as far as the DNC goes, the mainstream media was really fawning over the Obamas, and both Michelle and Barack spoke. They spoke in different locations. I don't know if they were trying to... Obama spoke at the Constitution in Philadelphia, basically. So it was a pretty cool location, I will admit that. But the thing that was interesting was the party is so headed in the direction of anti-Trump. That's their platform for 2020. That even the Obamas, who ran on a message of hope and unity in 2008 and 2012, have completely done a 180 of division and fear and pushing this narrative that if Trump wins again, America is over. And so I thought that was really interesting. And also the DNC fawned over that, saying that those speeches were some of their best or whatever, even though I don't think either of those speeches were the best for Michelle or Barack. And then, of course, the coverage has been about Biden's decency as a man, even though he clearly seems to be a decent man. But we've had clips over the past few months where his indecency has really shown when he was with, I think, factory workers somewhere in, I don't remember which state, but he said that he was very confrontational and mean. He called that one guy a lion dog face pony soldier, and he's been telling people not to even vote for him. So the whole decency narrative, yeah, I can see that that's his kind of image in the public eye up to only a few months ago. But the policy is where they're trying to avoid talking about it, because that's kind of where he gets into a little bit of trouble. And of course, their whole narrative is blaming Trump. And the media and the DNC are both on that same page as far as what their tactic is for this election cycle. Now, as far as the coverage of the RNC goes, the main three things I saw as far as political pundits after the convention was over was three things. One, they were focusing on the location of the event as far as Trump's speech goes. That was the main criticism. Social distancing and Trump's energy level. So the first 3 nights of the RNC, I have a few examples after this that were kind of cringy, but those were the main things that they were trying to hit on as far as the RNC goes, and that especially that last day where Trump spoke. And here's the problem with that. The entire push the last 6 months, I think at this point, was telling people to stay home, right? And so Trump said, okay, I'll stay home. I'll bring the event to my house, which is his house right now is the White House. Of course, his official address is in Palm Beach, but you know what I'm saying. That's his home, away from home. And so that was one thing I thought was okay, it's the location. And of course, they're trying to get the whole Hatch Act narrative, which I'll just put this prediction out there right now. I feel that is what they're going to try to impeach him again for it when he wins, because I think he is going to win. And the problem with that is the council, from what I understand, the council that kind of enforces, or I guess enforces is the right word, forces the Hatch Act, allegedly the Trump campaign and the White House was consulting that council to make sure what they were doing was okay. So from what I understand, the campaign and the administration has gotten word from the council that decides to prosecute people for violations of the Hatch Act, has gotten the okay from them. So I don't see how that's going, to work out well for them, but that has been the conversation that has been going on. So I don't know how that's going to turn out, but it seems to be an okay thing. As far as social distancing goes, they were very critical of President Trump's speech, and then Melania's, which I'll touch on in a little bit, as far as not having social distancing because the chairs were pretty close together, and how very few people were wearing masks, even though it was outside. One thing I wanted to touch on here was, I think it was, I don't know if it's a mayor or governor, but he was caught because he took a picture with his mask on and posted it to his Instagram, I believe. And then when he sat down, he took his mask off. So it was showing that he was just doing it for show and he wasn't really caring about the masks, even though people are saying that he has been a proponent of the mask. But clearly he was a mask fraud at this point. So at least, like, for me, I'm just going to say it now. I don't like wearing the mask, and I don't think it's effective. And I think people, I mean, if you want to wear a mask, you should. But I think people don't realize that it could have harm on their body. So I wouldn't pose for a picture in a mask for Instagram and then go sit down and take it off if my true belief is that I don't believe in wearing the mask and its effectiveness in fighting the virus. So at least be honest about it, right? But I know it's all about optics, it's all about pleasing the people and blah, 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 blah. So anyways, so that was my 2 cents on that. But I noticed, though, in the DNC that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden actually slipped up on the last night after Joe had done his speech, and they both came on stage to kind of wave to their Zoom audience that was on the big screens or whatever. And that was the only time I saw them slip up, but they were so conscious up to that point of like wearing the mask and then only taking it off once their spouse is next to them, blah, blah, blah. But that last night they slipped up, and then I noticed they put the mask back on when they went out for the firework display, which apparently, another weird thing I saw online was that firework display, the media didn't really know was happening until a few seconds before it was happening. And I saw a video of, someone can fact check this or verify this for me, of the media literally like running outside to try to get pictures of them as if they didn't know it was happening. So I thought that was kind of strange to see what was going on. So I don't know if it was just an oversight or they weren't sure if they were going to show him out there or have them out there. And then when they got out there, it was just a parking lot of cars and people in their cars honking and whatever with the fireworks display. I was like, come on, why couldn't they do that the whole time? If they just wanted a real audience, they should have just said, hey, we'll do a drive-up audience. I think that would have been cool. That would have been an awesome way to do it. But anyways, and then the last real criticism of Trump in his speech was his energy level, which I thought was an interesting critique, considering for nearly 4+ years now, even during his campaign, they have been bashing him for his rhetoric and how brash he is and how like unfiltered he is and just how completely honest he is when he's talking as far as what he actually thinks. And now they're all of a sudden saying they want more of that because he didn't show it. It's like they don't know what to think, because when he's acting presidential, they don't know how to spin it unless it's what he's actually talking about. And then if what he's actually talking about is true or is something that they don't want to push out there because it might incriminate them, they just don't cover it. So it's crazy to see this in real time, and it's wild. It's more stranger than fiction. The most entertaining thing we have right now is watching what is going on in the political landscape. And to be honest, I didn't want to bring this up, but if NBA, MLB, NHL, whatever other woke sports there are, if they all go under because people don't want to watch, or they're canceling themselves, or they're boycotting, whatever it may be, honestly, I wouldn't even be sad, because the political landscape, so many other things online are way more entertaining at this point than what's going on with sports. So they better be careful, because they might be going under pretty soon. And then as far as what I just talked about here, the coverage, I'm not really pointing out just like MSNBC or just CNN or just Fox News or any of the big four, ABC, NBC, CBS, Big Fox, whatever it may be, CNBC, Fox Business, or any online kind of more online driven content, is because they're all one and the same at this point, really. If they're not an independent voice, they're kind of all on the same page. I hate to break it to you, because on all these networks you can find someone who has this bias to them, and honestly, none of them are really news anymore. I think someone put it really, really well recently. They call it infotainment, meaning there's a bias everywhere, and I just respect the ones that actually admit their bias, or like don't pretend that they're not biased, because I know I'm biased. I know a lot of independent news media is biased as well, but you can probably find some that aren't, or are trying to give both sides to the story. But at this point, I'm almost suspicious of people who try to show both sides, if that makes sense, because I think it's up to us as consumers to decipher or analyze what we believe is the truth and what is not the truth. And sometimes actually the best way to do that is to watch two different news sites that both are implicitly biased and kind of decipher which one you think is true based on what they're both saying, instead of going to one news source that's trying to give you both sides, when in reality they could be kind of fudging both sides of the thing that they're trying to show to come up with a narrative as well. So you be the judge of what you think is true and what is not true, or what you think is really happening, and you get to decide what you want to think. That's what I believe. So that's kind of my thoughts on the coverage of the two conventions.